Tonight, America's election headquarters in depth. A look at what is becoming a major concern for Republicans, the possibility that no single candidate, gets enough support during the primary season to lock up the nomination before the convention in Cleveland. It could make for a bumpy ride to Cleveland.
I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
Before you get here, a Republican candidate has to collect delegates in primary and caucus states.
Thanks for your service.
You're welcome.
How you doing, sir? Fine.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
This year, it will take 1,237 delegates, a majority of the 2,472 delegates available to be able to clinch the nomination. And this year is very different because of the calendar, the split of delegates, and the candidates.
In this particular contest in 2016, you not only have 4 or 5 or 6 candidates that you could imagine potentially winning, but you have other candidates who aren't going to win and yet could easily amass a sizable number of delegates in certain states or certain regions. So, this is a very difficult situation for the Republicans.
Which is why you get all this talk about a possible brokered convention.
How do I know? No one knows the answer to that question. I think it's ridiculous to talk about it.
The brokered part is probably ridiculous.
The reason we had those kind of conventions in the past was that the convention was a unique communications medium. It was really the only place where politicians could gather and communicate confidentially, because back before the 1950s, you couldn't make a direct distance, long distance call. You had to go through an operator. It was terribly expensive. We didn't have things like email. You didn't have things like the press calling around. We didn't have a delegate count by the media until 1968. So nobody really knew what was going on. Everybody knows now, so nobody's going to wait till the convention meets in Cleveland.
The unlikely chance that we do go to a contested convention, we'll be ready.
But a contested convention where one candidate is leading but never gets to the magic number of delegates, the majority needed before the convention in Cleveland, well, that is distinctly possible in the GOP this year. Here's why. Here are all the states' primaries and caucuses by month. February in red, March in yellow, and all the rest February through June. Any state before March 15th, according to the RNC, had to award delegates proportionally. In other words, lower finishing candidates could still acquire delegates. There are more of those proportional states this year. Really only 10 states or territories are winner-take-all completely, meaning the vast majority of the delegates will be awarded proportionally. Why does that matter? Well, look back to 2012. Mitt Romney had accumulated 521 delegates by March 16th. After that, he went on to win 80% of the remaining delegates available, including all 155 delegates in Texas. And it still took him until May 29th to get to that magic number, the majority. Well, this time, Texas votes on March 1st, proportionally, with many more viable candidates.
This is a much more difficult mathematical formula to produce a majority nominee, much less a consensus nominee.
1972 and beyond, primaries selecting most of the delegates. We haven't seen a situation like this. We've seen situations where candidates have assembled the majority, have been very close to a majority after the primary process, and have gotten commitments pretty hurriedly. And I think that if we have a plurality situation this time, we're going to see something like that again, except a little more frenzy.
But there's another problem. It's called Rule 40B. It was put into the RNC rules last cycle by Romney supporters. It requires that in order to be nominated, a candidate has to show support from a majority of the delegates available in at least 8 states or more. Some say it was put in to try to prevent Ron Paul supporters from putting his name into nomination on the convention floor in Tampa to avoid embarrassment. Others say it was to protect Romney from challenges in the future if he won. Either way, it's tough to see any candidate this year in a crowded field getting to that number.
Rule 40B is another big problem potentially for Republicans. My guess is it's going to have to be changed, and ideally for the Republicans, there will be a recommendation joined in by just about everybody to change it so that it can go through on the very first day of the convention.
This is something that is remediable, and you can have rules changes conducted legally.
But it is complex.